The monk sits in silence. Around him, the world moves in fragments, footsteps, car horns, the hum of a refrigerator in someone's kitchen. A child cries 3 blocks away. He does not move. He does not resist any of it. And yet something fundamental has shifted. The action has not yet been born, but its shadow already falls across tomorrow. This is where karma begins, not in the grand gestures, not in the moments we rehearse, but here, in this breath, in this choice, in the space between impulse and deed. Thich Nhat Hanh spent over 70 years teaching a teaching that Western minds have misunderstood for centuries. Karma is not punishment. It is not a cosmic accounting system run by some celestial judge keeping meticulous records of your mistakes. Karma is something far more intimate and terrifying. Karma is you. Right now, creating the world you will inherit in the next moment. The common enemy wears many faces. It is the belief that what you do today has nothing to do with what arrives tomorrow. It is the illusion of separation, the idea that your actions float away into some harmless void, that you can speak carelessly and suffer no consequence. That anger is just a feeling, that indifference is neutral, that small cruelties are forgettable. The enemy tells you that tomorrow you can be someone different, that you can reinvent yourself without carrying what you planted today. This enemy lives in the modern mind like a virus. It whispers that intention is all that matters, that we should be judged by what we meant, not what we did, that the consequences that follow our actions are somehow disconnected from our actions themselves. Thich Nhat Hanh spent his life untangling this lie, and what he revealed is so simple and so profound that it breaks the surface of comfort we build around ourselves. There is a story that appears in the early teachings of Buddhism. A woman comes to the Buddha with a question. She has done something terrible, something she cannot take back. She asks if she can ever be free from what she has done. The Buddha does not offer her forgiveness the way a priest might. He does not absolve her. Instead, he points to her own hands. He says, "Your hands created what your hands created, but your hands are also the only hands that can plant something different. This is not mercy. This is responsibility. This is the skeleton of karma beneath all its flesh." In modern life, we have learned to think of karma as something mystical, something that happens to us. Like luck but darker and more vengeful. We say, karma is a bitch when someone we dislike meets misfortune. We invoke karma as if it were a cosmic force of justice that we can blame for our suffering. But Thich Nhat Hanh asks a dangerous question. What if karma is not something that happens to you? What if it is something you are always doing? What if karma is the present moment happening to itself through your choices? Consider this. The word karma in Sanskrit means action, not the consequence of action, the action itself. This distinction rewires everything. You are not waiting for karma to come. You are making karma with every breath, every word, every gesture, every silent thought. The universe is not keeping score. You are. Your body is keeping score. Your mind is keeping score. The people around you are keeping score. The future is keeping score. And the strangest part is this. You cannot cheat. You cannot hide. You cannot rationalize your way out of what you have sown. The seeds you plant today are already growing into tomorrow. Thich Nhat Hanh taught in a way that made this visceral. He did not speak in abstractions. He spoke in images, in concrete details, in the texture of ordinary life. He said, karma is in your food. When you eat with awareness, you taste not only the rice but the farmer who grew it, the rain that fell, the sun that shone, the hands that prepared it. But when you eat in distraction, shoveling food into your mouth while scrolling through screens, you eat hastily. You eat with a hungry ghost consciousness. And that hunger becomes the seed. That seed grows into tomorrow's hunger. That is karma. It is not punishment, it is consequence. It is the unfolding of what you have already chosen. Consider a moment from ordinary life. You are rushing through your morning. Your partner says something and you snap at them. It is a small thing, 3 words with an edge. They flinch, they go silent. In that moment, did karma happen? Yes, not in some distant future. Right then, the seed was planted in the soil of that moment. Your partner's withdrawal, the slight hurt in their eyes, the small distance that opened between you, that is already the consequence. And if you do this repeatedly, day after day, the seed grows deeper roots, the consequence compounds. What began as small irritations becomes patterns. Patterns become habits. Habits become the texture of your relationship. Years later, you look across the table at someone you claim to love and you feel like a stranger, and you wonder how it happened. But Thich Nhat Hanh would say it happened in 10,000 small moments just like this one. It happened in the accumulation of seeds you planted. The revolutionary part of Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching is this: if karma is action, then it is not fixed. It is not final. It is not something done to you by an external force. This means you are not a prisoner. You are not cursed. You are not trapped by your past, because the past is not unchangeable. The way you relate to the past is changing all the time. This moment right now, in which you remember a mistake you made, is itself a new action. It is a new seed. If you remember with hatred toward yourself, that is one kind of karma. If you remember with compassion and a commitment to do differently, that's a different kind of karma entirely. The past is dead, but your relationship to the past is alive, and that relationship is creating your future, right now. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of inner being. This is not a word that existed before he coined it. He needed a new word because old words were too small for the truth he was trying to express. Inner being means that nothing exists independently. Everything is woven into everything else. Your action is not separate from the world's response. Your word is not separate from the listener's heart. Your intention is not separate from the consequences that ripple outward. When you cut down a tree, you are not just removing wood. You're changing the air that someone will breathe. You're removing shelter from animals that will now die of exposure. You are altering the rainfall patterns in a way that might take years to show itself. You are participating in climate change in a way so small you will never see it, but it is real. That is interbeing. That is why Thich Nhat Hanh said, "You cannot do anything alone." Every action reaches everywhere. Every action touches everyone. This is not a burden. This is freedom, because it means your actions matter infinitely. It means you are never insignificant. It means there is no such thing as a small choice. In the modern world, we have invented a concept called deniability. We can pollute the water and claim we are not responsible because someone else dumped the chemicals. We can buy products made by exploited workers and claim we are not responsible because we did not make the system. We can ignore suffering and claim we are not responsible because we did not cause it. But Thich Nhat Hanh would look at this and smile sadly. He would say you are living in a dream. You are pretending the web does not exist, but the web is there. It is real. You are sitting in it right now. When you buy a product made by someone working in horrible conditions, you have just voted for those horrible conditions. You have just cast your seed into the soil and said, "Yes, do this again." That is karma, not punishment, just cause and effect, just the simple mathematics of what you have chosen to participate in. There is a teaching in Buddhism about the three poisons: greed, aversion, delusion. These are not moral judgments. They are descriptions of how suffering is created. Greed says, "I need more." It is never satisfied. It always wants the next thing, the next status, the next experience, the next feeling. And because it can never be satisfied, it creates a constant state of wanting. That wanting is suffering. When you act from greed, what seed are you planting? A seed of more wanting. A seed of dissatisfaction. A seed of comparison. Because when you act from greed, you teach others to act from greed. You normalize the hunger. You make it seem natural. And soon the whole society is organized around feeding this hunger. This hunger becomes the water everyone swims in. This is karma on a collective level. This is how we have built a civilization that is slowly choking on its own consumption. Aversion is the opposite pole. It says no. It rejects. It pushes away. It says this is bad and that is good. This is acceptable and that is not. From aversion comes judgment. From judgment comes punishment. From punishment comes the belief that certain people are disposable, that certain people deserve suffering. And when you act from this poison, what seed are you planting? A seed of division, a seed of cruelty, a seed that says some lives matter and others do not. And this seed grows. It grows in laws and institutions. It grows in the way you look at people on the street. It grows in the quality of your attention. It grows in whether you see someone as a fully realized human being or as less than. That is karma. Delusion is the root. Delusion says there is no connection. It says what I do does not matter. It says the world and I are separate. It says my actions do not reach anyone. This delusion is the soil from which all other suffering grows. Because if you believe you are separate, then you can harm others without harming yourself. If you believe your actions do not matter, then you can live carelessly. If you believe the world is disconnected from you, then you have no responsibility. But Thich Nhat Hanh spent his whole life proving this delusion is a lie. He lived through war. He watched napalm burn villages. He saw the disconnection people tried to maintain between the weapons they built and the bodies those weapons destroyed. And he said no. There is no such thing as disconnection. There is only the fantasy of disconnection, and that fantasy is the most dangerous delusion of all. Thich Nhat Hanh taught what he called mindful consumption. He said if you truly want to understand karma, begin with what you eat, not as a moral exercise, not to judge yourself as good or bad, but as a direct investigation into how your actions are never isolated. When you hold a piece of fruit, he said, you are holding the work of many hands. You are holding the rain that fell. You are holding the earth that grew it. You are holding the sun that warmed it. You are holding the suffering of the farmer who harvested it. You are holding the joy of the farmer's family when they received payment. You are holding the truck driver who brought it. You are holding the system that transported it. You are holding everything. And in eating it, you are eating everything. You become part of that everything. That is not karma as punishment. That is karma as truth. That is the beginning of understanding what you actually are. There is something terrifying in this teaching. It is this. You cannot escape responsibility by claiming ignorance. You cannot escape responsibility by claiming you did not know. Because Thich Nhat Hanh would say, if you did not know, why did you not know? What were you avoiding? What comfortable story were you telling yourself so that you did not have to look? The question is not whether you are responsible. The question is whether you will accept that responsibility. Whether you will wake up to what you have been doing. Whether you will look at the consequences of your actions with open eyes. This is terrifying because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand karma, you cannot go back to unconsciousness. You cannot go back to the comfort of not knowing. And that is exactly what Thich Nhat Hanh meant when he said, awakening is not always comfortable. Consider the simplest action, speaking a lie. What happens? The person you lied to makes decisions based on false information. Their life is altered. But more immediately, something happens to you. The lie creates a seed in your own consciousness. It creates a need to remember the lie, to protect the lie, to build another lie to defend the first lie. It creates a background hum of anxiety. It creates a small distance between you and the person you lied to. Even if they never find out the truth, you know. And that knowing changes everything. Your trust in relationships becomes more fragile because you know you are capable of lying. Your relationships become less intimate because part of you is always protecting the secret. The lie did not just affect the other person. The lie affected you most of all. It created a prisoner inside you. That is karma, not punishment, just the natural consequence of the action itself. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that every action is preceded by intention. The intention is the seed. Before the act, there is the thought. Before the word, there is the intention. And the intention contains within it the full karma of the action. This is why he said, you must pay attention to your thinking. Your thoughts are creating your world right now. When you think angry thoughts about someone, what are you doing? You are poisoning the well of your relationship with them. You are building up resentment in your own heart. You are preparing the ground for an angry action, because thoughts and actions are not separate. Thoughts are subtle actions. Thoughts are seeds planted in the subtle soil of consciousness, and they grow. They grow into emotions. Emotions grow into words. Words grow into deeds, and deeds grow into habits. Habits grow into character. Character grows into destiny. It all begins with the thought. It all begins with the seed you plant in consciousness. This is why Thich Nhat Hanh spent so much time teaching mindfulness, not as a relaxation technique, not as a way to be more productive or successful, but as a way to wake up to what you are actually doing. He said mindfulness is the antidote to the delusion of separation. When you are mindful, you cannot pretend. You cannot hide from yourself. You are aware of what is happening in this moment. You are aware of your impulses. You are aware of your habitual reactions. And in that awareness, something shifts. The possibility of choice emerges, the possibility of not acting from your conditioning, the possibility of planting a different seed. Imagine you are in a conversation and someone says something you disagree with. In that moment, the impulse arises to argue, to prove them wrong, to win the argument. This is the habitual reaction, the seed that has been planted in you through years of education, through television, through competition. But if you are mindful, you notice the impulse. You do not judge it. You simply notice it. And in that noticing, you have a choice. You can act from the impulse, or you can act from awareness. If you act from the impulse, you plant a seed of conflict. If you act from awareness, you plant a seed of curiosity. You might ask the person why they believe what they believe. You might listen to understand instead of listening to rebut. And in that listening, something different grows. That is what Thich Nhat Hanh meant when he said consciousness is where karma is transformed. The Western world has a concept called New Year's resolutions. Every year, millions of people declare that they will be different. They will exercise more, they will eat better, they will be kinder, they will be more present, and most of these resolutions fail. They fail because people believe they can simply decide to be different. But Thich Nhat Hanh would say, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how change works. You cannot just decide to be different. You must understand how you became who you are. You must understand what seeds you have been planting. You must become conscious of the patterns. And then, slowly, one moment at a time, you begin to plant different seeds. This is not fast. This is not dramatic. This is the patient work of transformation. This is what real karma means. This is how you actually change. There is a sutra, a teaching in Buddhism, called the Sutra on the Full Awareness of Breathing. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a commentary on this sutra. In it, he describes how the simple act of breathing consciously is already karma. When you breathe consciously, you are not acting from your conditioning. You are acting from awareness. You are present. You are alive. And that presence, that aliveness, is already changing you. It is already changing the world, because when you are truly present with your breath, you cannot be anxious about the future. You cannot be regretful about the past. You are here. You are now. And from that place of presence, all actions that flow are different. They are wiser. They are more compassionate. That is karma transformed at its root. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that there is a difference between punishment and consequence. Punishment is inflicted from the outside. A judge punishes you for a crime. A parent punishes a child for misbehavior. Punishment implies separation. It implies that someone else is angry with you and is making you suffer. But consequence is different. Consequence is the natural result of your action. When you touch fire, you burn. The fire is not punishing you. The fire is simply showing you the consequence of touching it. And this distinction is everything, because when you understand karma as consequence rather than punishment, you stop seeing the world as a place that is against you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim. You see instead the simple mathematics of cause and effect. You see your own power. You see that you can change the consequences by changing the cause. You can change the future by changing your present actions. In modern psychology, there is something called the growth mindset. People with a growth mindset believe they can develop their abilities through hard work. People with a fixed mindset believe their abilities are unchangeable. Thich Nhat Hanh was describing something similar when he taught about karma. He was saying that you have the capacity to grow. That growth comes through action and awareness, that every moment is an opportunity to plant a new seed, that you are not trapped by your past. This is radically different from how many people think about karma. Many people think karma is deterministic. They think if you did something bad in a past life, then this life will be bad. But Thich Nhat Hanh rejected this interpretation. He said karma is dynamic. Karma is alive. Karma can be transformed. This is why he called his teaching a teaching of hope. Consider the life of Thich Nhat Hanh himself. He lived through the Vietnam War. He watched his country torn apart. He saw suffering on a scale that most people cannot imagine. And he had a choice. He could have become bitter. He could have acted from hatred. He could have sought revenge. He could have become a seed planter of more war, more violence, more suffering. But instead, he chose compassion. He chose to understand the suffering of all sides. He chose to see that the American soldiers were also suffering, that the South Vietnamese government was suffering, that everyone was trapped in systems of delusion. And from that compassion, he planted different seeds. He worked for peace. He taught forgiveness. He became a spiritual leader who healed rather than harmed. That is what it means to transform karma. That is what it means to be awake to the consequences of your actions and to choose differently. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that some people carry collective karma. He was referring to nations, societies, cultures. When a society is built on injustice, everyone who participates in that society participates in the karma. This is a difficult teaching. It means you are responsible not just for your individual actions, but also for the actions of the system you participate in. It means that if you benefit from injustice, you have a responsibility to address that injustice. It means you cannot simply say, I am just one person. I cannot change the system. Because that statement itself is a seed. It is a seed of apathy. It is a seed of collaboration with injustice. Thich Nhat Hanh believed that every action matters, that even small actions like speaking truth or choosing not to participate in what you believe is wrong, these actions create ripples. These actions plant seeds of transformation. There is a concept in Buddhism called dependent origination. It means everything arises in dependence on conditions. Nothing arises independently. This is the opposite of how we usually think. We usually think that things just happen, that circumstances are given to us. But dependent origination says no. Everything that exists is the result of causes and conditions. This is what karma really means. It means understanding the web of causality, understanding that your actions matter because they are always part of a chain of causality that reaches everywhere and influences everything. You cannot act as if you are separate from the consequences of your actions. Because you are not separate. You are woven into the world. Your actions are creating the world moment by moment. Thich Nhat Hanh used a metaphor of a mirror. He said, consciousness is like a mirror. What you see in the mirror is what is in front of you, but the mirror itself does not judge. It does not add or subtract. It simply reflects. And we are like that mirror. We reflect the world. We receive the world. And what we receive and what we reflect creates what happens next. If we reflect hatred, we create the conditions for more hatred. If we reflect love, we create the conditions for more love. This is not magical thinking. This is just how interaction works. This is just how the world works. When you go to work and you are angry, the people around you feel that anger. They respond to it. Some mirror it back to you, some shut down. Either way, the anger you brought has changed the environment. That is karma. That is cause and effect. Now consider the implications of this teaching in practical life. You are at work. Your boss is demanding. You are stressed. You come home and you yell at your partner. Your partner withdraws. The children sense the tension. The evening is ruined. That night, nobody sleeps well. The next day, everyone is tired and irritable. The seed you planted yesterday grows into a forest today, and if this pattern repeats, it becomes the weather of the home. It becomes the climate in which your family lives. Children grow up in an environment of tension and learn to live in tension. They carry that pattern into their own relationships. That is collective karma. That is how patterns transmit across generations. That is why Thich Nhat Hanh said awakening is so important. Because when you awaken, you can break these patterns. You can plant different seeds. You can change not just your own future, but the future of everyone connected to you. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that right action comes from right understanding. You cannot act rightly if you do not understand. Understanding comes from looking deeply. Looking deeply means examining your conditioning, examining your assumptions, examining why you believe what you believe. It means becoming curious about your own mind. Most people never do this. Most people live according to their conditioning without ever questioning it. They think what they were taught to think. They feel what they were trained to feel. They act according to patterns laid down in childhood. But awakening means stepping out of this automaticity. Awakening means looking at your conditioning and asking, is this really how I want to be? Is this who I really want to be? Do I want to keep planting these seeds? There is a meditation practice Thich Nhat Hanh taught called looking deeply. You sit quietly and you bring to mind an action you took that you regret. You do not judge yourself. You simply look. You ask, what caused me to act this way? What was I feeling? What did I believe at that moment? What patterns from my past were activated? And as you look more deeply, you begin to understand. You begin to see that the action was not random. It arose from causes and conditions. This does not mean you are not responsible. It means you are responsible in a different way. You are responsible for waking up to the causes and conditions. You are responsible for working with them. You are responsible for choosing differently next time. This is the path of transformation. When Thich Nhat Hanh talked about karma, he was not talking about something mystical or distant. He was talking about the present moment. He was saying that right now, in this very moment, you are creating your karma. The way you are breathing is karma. The way you are thinking is karma. The way you are listening is karma. The intention with which you are sitting here reading these words is karma. Everything is karma, and this is both terrifying and liberating. It is terrifying because you cannot escape responsibility. It is liberating because you can change your karma at any moment. You do not have to wait for circumstances to change. You can change right now. You can take a conscious breath right now. You can decide to listen more carefully right now. You can decide to act with more compassion right now. That is the power of understanding karma. Consider this scenario. Someone wrongs you. They hurt you. They break your trust. The impulse that arises is to hurt them back, to seek revenge, to make them pay. This is a very human impulse. We all know it. But Thich Nhat Hanh would say, look what you are about to do. You are about to plant seeds of more suffering. You're about to create the conditions for more harm. You're about to teach the world that it is okay to hurt people who hurt you, and that teaching will come back to you. That is karma. But there is another possibility. You can feel the hurt. You can feel the anger. You can feel the desire for revenge. You can feel all of this, but you do not have to act from it. You can look deeply at your pain. You can look deeply at the person who hurt you and ask what causes could lead them to do this, what conditioning, what suffering. And in looking deeply, you transform the karma. You plant a different seed. You plant a seed of understanding. That seed grows into something different. Thich Nhat Hanh lived for 95 years. In the last years of his life, he could not speak. He had had a stroke, but he continued to teach through his presence. His presence was the teaching. People would sit with him and they would feel his peace. They would feel his compassion. They would feel his acceptance. And through that, they would understand karma. They would understand that it is not about being perfect. It is about waking up. It is about meeting each moment with consciousness. It is about accepting that you cannot always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. That response is what matters. That response is the seed you plant. There is a concept in Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching called engaged Buddhism. He did not believe that spirituality meant withdrawing from the world. He believed spirituality meant engaging with the world with full awareness and compassion. He believed the monk in the monastery and the activist in the street both have karma. Both are planting seeds. The question is, what seeds are they planting? Are they planting seeds of awareness or seeds of unconsciousness? Are they planting seeds of compassion or seeds of cruelty? That is what matters. That is what defines whether an action is spiritual or not. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that karma is not punishment from outside. Karma is the way the world naturally works. It is like gravity. If you throw a ball up, it comes down. It does not come down to punish you. It comes down because that is the law of gravity. Similarly, if you send out hatred, hatred comes back. If you send out kindness, kindness comes back, not as punishment or reward, just as the natural working of the world. This is why he said the best protection is to do what is right, not to do what is right in order to be protected. but to understand that doing what is right is itself the protection. When you act with integrity, you do not have to be afraid, you do not have to hide, you do not have to defend yourself, you are free. Now imagine you have learned this. You understand karma. You understand that every action matters. You understand that you are creating your world with every choice. How does this change you? First, it makes you more conscious. You begin to notice your impulses before you act on them. You begin to see your patterns. You begin to understand why you are the way you are. Second, it makes you more responsible. You cannot blame others for your suffering. You cannot blame the world. You must look at your own contribution. You must see how your actions have created the conditions of your life. This is hard. This is humbling, but it is also empowering, because once you accept responsibility, you can change. Once you stop blaming, you can act differently. Third, it makes you more compassionate. When you understand that people's actions come from their conditioning and their suffering, you cannot hate them the way you once did. You can be angry about what they did. You can set boundaries, you can protect yourself, but underneath, you understand. You see that they too are suffering. They too are trapped in patterns. They too are acting from conditioning. This does not mean you accept their behavior. It means you see them with less hatred and more sadness. You see them as someone trapped rather than as someone evil. And that shift in how you see people changes everything. Finally, understanding karma makes you more humble. You realize that you do not know the full consequences of your actions. You plant a seed that you think will grow into one thing, and it grows into something entirely different. You make a choice that you think is good, and it has unintended consequences. This teaches humility. It teaches you to be more careful. It teaches you to think more deeply before you act. It teaches you that the world is more complex than your individual mind can comprehend. And that is wisdom. Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching on karma is an invitation to wake up. It is an invitation to stop sleepwalking through your life. It is an invitation to take responsibility for what you are creating. It is an invitation to plant better seeds. And the beautiful part is that you can start right now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, right now. In this breath, in this moment, you can decide to be more conscious. You can decide to act with more compassion. You can decide to look deeply at what is really happening. That is where transformation begins. That is where karma is transformed, not through magical thinking, not through hope, but through seeing clearly and acting accordingly. The world is on fire. We all know this. The environment is degrading. People are suffering. Injustice is everywhere. And many people feel paralyzed. They feel that their individual actions do not matter. They feel that the problem is too big. But Thich Nhat Hanh would say that is the poison of delusion speaking. That is the voice that says you are separate from what is happening. But you are not separate. You are participating in this world moment by moment through your actions. When you buy something you do not need, you are participating in consumption that is destroying the earth. When you speak unkindly to someone, you are participating in the culture of cruelty. When you remain silent in the face of injustice, you are participating in injustice. This is karma. This is responsibility. But it also means that when you act differently, when you choose consciousness, when you choose compassion, you are creating different conditions. You are planting different seeds. You are part of the solution in a way that seems small, but that is actually profound. There is a practice, Thich Nhat Hanh, taught for understanding karma in daily life. It is very simple. At the end of each day, you reflect on your actions. You ask yourself, what seeds did I plant today? Did I plant seeds of kindness or seeds of cruelty? Did I plant seeds of honesty or seeds of deception? Did I plant seeds of presence or seeds of distraction? You do not judge yourself. You simply observe. You see clearly. And this practice, done regularly, begins to change you. You become more aware of what you are doing. You become more intentional. You begin to notice patterns. And as you notice patterns, you can choose to change them. In conclusion, Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching on karma can be summarized like this. You are making karma right now, with this breath, with this thought, with this action. You are not a victim of karma from the past. You are the creator of karma for the future. Every moment is an opportunity to plant new seeds. Every moment is an opportunity to transform. The question is not whether you have the power to change. The question is whether you will accept the responsibility that comes with that power. Will you wake up to what you are creating? Will you look deeply at your actions? Will you choose compassion over cruelty? Will you choose consciousness over automaticity? These are not easy choices, but they are always available. They are always possible. And when you make them, when you understand karma in your bones, when you begin to plant better seeds, you discover something surprising. You discover that you are free, not free from responsibility, but free because you understand responsibility. Free because you are awake. Free because you are no longer controlled by conditioning. Free because you are choosing. That is what Thich Nhat Hanh spent his life trying to awaken in us. Not the idea of freedom, but the direct experience of freedom that comes through understanding karma and acting accordingly. Share this teaching with those around you. Let them know that their actions matter. Let them know that they have the power to change. Let them know that awakening is possible. And subscribe so we can continue exploring together the profound teachings of Buddhism and the way they can transform our lives and our world. Because the world needs this now. It needs people who understand that their actions matter. It needs people who are awake. It needs you.